I will now go ahead and close the chat. How do I do that now? Yes, hide, hide. And I'm also hiding the attendees list. Right, so we have the webinar now, and you already know, most of you know me. My name is Abhilash. I work with international communications and student recruitment at Chalmers, which basically means I try to market Chalmers towards smart students like you, right? So I do not work with questions regarding documentation, not with scholarships, not with anything else other than the question, why would you choose Chalmers as opposed to any other university in the world, right? That said, I also have some student ambassadors with me today and two other colleagues, Jens and Oana, who will be helping me through this entire webinar. Okay, so let's go to what the agenda for the day looks like today. It is going to be the next stages for you Indians and Pakistani students, then followed by some information on scholarships, followed by a discussion with the Chalmers student ambassadors and a Q&A. We're going to slightly change the way this works this time. What we're going to do is so during the first 10 minutes, I will do the first 2 points on the agenda, which is the next steps and the scholarships. And when it comes to the third point, I will open the chat, but we won't necessarily answer you on chat. Instead, we will be starting a discussion around many points, and we will weave the answers to your questions into our discussion. All right, so there is not going to be a chat where we answer to you by typing. You might receive a few answers by chat, but most questions will be taken orally, right? So we will be taking it orally. We will be doing it on video, just so you know. So be patient. Sometimes your answer will be the answer to your question will be part of a larger answer. Okay, so listen through and then you can do it. Please don't spam the chat. There was this problem with spamming last time, so please don't spam the chat by copying and pasting your question. Be patient and ask your question if at the end of a relevant question has not yet been, a related question has not answered your question. Okay, moving on. What's next? Well, we've got the key dates, and you know these key dates already. If you attended the general webinar, you already know these key dates. They are the 15th of January, which was last week. You had the deadline for application and scholarships. And then on the 1st of February comes the deadline for documentation. On the 29th of March, you have the deadline you will get to know, as in most of you, a large number of you will get to know whether you got admitted or whether you did not get admitted. Or the third position or the third possibility is that you were put on a wait list or on a reserve list. Okay, now if you were admitted on the first round, which is the 29th of March, you will get a message on university admissions where you will get a question. Do you want to keep your admission? Yes or no? If you say yes, then you can move on to the next steps, which would probably involve you applying for a visa, making sure that you can pay for your fees, accommodation, so on and so forth. That comes only after you have been admitted and you have said yes. If you say no, the only thing that will happen is that all these no answers, they are seats that were rejected, right? So you rejected your admission, in which case what will happen is those seats will be taken and recycled into a second round of admissions where people on the reserved list will then be offered positions based on their results, right? So the second round will then, so to speak, evaluate the reserve list applicants, and then on the second round date that will come sometime in April, they will get to know whether they got admitted or not, and that will happen only because there will be a certain number of people who will probably say no when they got admitted in the first round. So that's the reason why there is a first round and a second round. Okay, next, there is a very important thing that I have to tell you as far as the 1st of February is concerned. You will have to ensure that the documents have arrived at university admissions, whether that be that you are sending them by post or whether that be that you are uploading them. It does not matter. And it is also the deadline for the application fee payment. So you must have paid that 900 SEK Swedish crown application fee by the 1st of February. That money should have reached university admissions by the 1st of February. So please take into account bank holidays, weekends, whatever it is that you need to do in order to ensure that the money and the documentation has arrived at university admissions by the 1st of February, which is a Monday. Okay. If you have any questions about key dates, you will be able to find that information on www.chalmers.se/key dates. You should be able to find this information on that webpage. This and more, all other key dates that are coming up in the future also will be there. So you will be able to find that information there. All right. Moving on to the next slide, we have information about scholarships. Now, the Chalmers scholarships, the deadline for application was the 15th of January. If you did, you received a link on which you were able to motivate your application. You did that through scholarships. So if you did not apply for a scholarships before January 15th, you don't really have the opportunity to apply for any other scholarships with Chalmers. All right. The Swedish Institute, however, has scholarships that you can apply for. These are scholarships called the Swedish Institute Study Scholarships, SISS. Oh, my backdrop fell down. You can climb on the chair if you wish to fix it. Oh, yay. Glue works sometimes and it doesn't at others. You know, it's kind of difficult. So, coming back to the point, the Swedish Institute Study Scholarships. The Swedish Institute Study Scholarships are actually a really good scholarship. It includes living expenses, travel expenses, your fees, everything is included, right? So if you want to apply to these scholarships, the deadline was actually today, but they have extended it. They've extended it to the 22nd of January. So you got 2 more days to make your application to the Swedish Institute scholarships. If you have any questions about the Swedish Institute scholarships, you must contact Swedish Institute. And the way you do that is by going to the website www.studyinSweden.se. You cannot ask Chalmers people, you cannot ask the Chalmers admissions unit, you cannot ask me. We do not have the answers to questions regarding the Swedish Institute scholarships. You will need to address them to Swedish Institute. All right. Now, let us say you got admitted. Let us say you said yes, and let us say you came to Chalmers and enrolled yourself, and you did not have a scholarship. You still have the opportunity to get a scholarship, and you do that by applying for one of these 3 scholarships. The first one is the Adler-Burt 60th anniversary scholarships, right? The second one is the Adler-Burt Foreign Student Hospitality Fund, and the third one is the Rotary International Student House Scholarship Fund. These are small and big scholarships that you can apply for only after you have enrolled yourself at Chalmers. All right. And some students get them. It's not like it's a scholarship that can be availed by a lot of people. No scholarship is something that can be availed by a lot of people. Scholarships by definition are provided only to a few students, right? So some students, you can all apply for it if you're admitted and you enroll yourself at Chalmers. Some of you will get it. There you go. Next, for both of you groups, we have students from India and Pakistan attending this webinar today, and there are 2 Facebook groups available that we have created officially for all of you. These groups are www.facebook.com/groups/nextstopchalmersindia and www.facebook.com/groups/nextstopchalmerspakistan. In these groups, you can join. These are closed groups, which means that you will need to first say you want to join the group, and then you will be approved. Your request will be approved by an admin of the Facebook group, and then you can go into the group and have a discussion amongst yourselves as to whatever questions you may have, right? From time to time, people like me will step in and answer a few questions. From time to time, our student ambassadors will also be available. They will be available more than us, just so you know. So officials from Chalmers might not be available very regularly. The student ambassadors might be available a little more regularly, just so you know. Okay, so these are Facebook groups that you can use to discuss amongst yourselves, to share resources that you might find online for anything. It might be information about applications, it might be information about jobs, whatever it is that you want to find. Yeah. Next, now we bring in the student ambassadors. What I'm going to do now is to reduce the presentation area. So the webinar, the PowerPoint slide that you see will become a little smaller. The video will stay as it is. I will introduce the chat function back, And at this point, the chat function, I will try to make it a little bigger so that you can also put in your questions and we can see them, you can see them, so on and so forth. All right. So let me go ahead and reduce the size of the presentation. Wow, this is slow. All right. And then I'm going to introduce the chat. You guys can take your seats. Go ahead. Chat references, good. Excellent. So I'm going to make the chat big so that you have more space to write. And we will start our discussion on the following slides. And I'm going to have my colleague Oana helping me with the slides and Jens with the questions. So we've got first some specific information for Pakistan and for India. I will let Arsalan do the talking for the Pakistan part. So Arsalan, would you like to introduce yourself? What is your name and what do you study? And then you can speak.
Hi guys, I'm Arsalan and I'm doing a master's in biomedical engineering. And as I've just told you guys, I'm from Pakistan. As I've gone through the whole application process, there were two things that I think I should point out. First off was that you have to get your diplomas and your transcripts attested by the agency, and you have to do it before time. They take a long time to get them attested, so do it beforehand. If possible, go to their offices directly instead of sending them by mail. It's much more faster. Second thing, you don't need any IELTS or TOEFL. If you checked on the University Admission Sweden website, we have an exemption for English language.
Good, great. And the deadline is the 1st of April, right? Arslan, your voice is very low. Okay, we can fix that. No, it's all right. We can fix that with the volume of the microphone here. I reduced it earlier. So are you guys able to hear us clearly now? You might not be able to see us, but you should be able to hear us clearly. Excellent, wonderful. Then we can also bring in Akshay. Would you like to introduce yourself first?
Hello guys, I am Akshay. I am from India. I am doing my master's program in wireless photonics and space engineering. I am in a first year.
And Nurani.
Hi everybody, I'm Renalini and I'm doing my master's in biotechnology and currently I'm in my second year of study.
Excellent. Would you like to point out what's important for Indians to remember?
Yes, firstly, the deadline for application is February 1st, and secondly, as you know, we don't really need an IELTS or a TOEFL score to apply for Chalmers University here. So yeah, that is more or less what you need to know.
Right. So you do not need to have an English test. Your university, as long as your university transcripts clearly state, this is both for India and for Pakistan, as long as your transcripts very clearly state that your medium of instruction was English, you do not need to submit an English test score. All right. Moving on to the next slide and to this question about what about student has studied in Pakistan but basically belong to other countries.
Yes, if you're not a Pakistani national, but you're studying in a Pakistani university, you still need to get because you got your degree and your transcripts from a Pakistani university, you need to get them attested by the agency still.
Yeah. So it's the attestation is a function of which country you studied in, not your nationality, right? So guys, just to kick off this discussion, what do you think about Sweden, and what are your experiences here? You know, like, have you had a fun time? You're here for the 1.5 years already. You just arrived. How is your experience? Would you recommend Sweden? Would you recommend Chalmers? What are your experiences?
Firstly, I would like to start with by saying that the course structure which they have arranged is what the industry wants, because some of the problems and design problems which we solve are the design problems like NASA had when they were developing the Mars rover, and it's pretty good.
Wow, you actually worked on a project that's related to Mars rover?
We had an exam problem on that.
You had an exam problem on it. Wow. Okay. So, I mean, other points like the industry or how education is, or is it how you experience the flat nature of the lack of hierarchy of Sweden, the food. Let's bring it up all
I
these
gotta
things.
say something about that. Yeah, like, I did my bachelor's in Pakistan, and there you just go to your professor, you say, "Sir, excuse me," you knock on the door, you write your applications and things like that. But here, you just walk in, you
Yeah,
give your professor a high five, you say, "How's he doing?" Gives you a cup of coffee.
yeah, really.
It's really relaxed,
Yeah.
and I think that brings up more ideas.
Excellent. Yes, yes, it does.
And yeah, I would like to add here that you don't really need to say a sir or a ma'am. You can call your professor by his or her first name. So that is how approachable your professors are.
Yeah, and that automatically brings you in touch with their work, and that brings you in touch with their social life. So you get even more chances to network with people that are flying in a whole other strata, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Like actually happened to me. Like once I had a doubt and I approached the professor saying, "Sir, I have this problem," and my sir was like, "No, please call me Magnus."
So his name is Magnus, right? So you call him Magnus now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I still have some people in Chalmers that call me sir, and I find it really awkward because I've gotten used to the Swedish way of doing things. But I mean, it's kind of like, for example, Narendra from CERT last year, he still calls me sir, and it's like, take it easy, man. I don't really deal with that well. But yeah, so that's cool. But you said something about Morris Rover. So do you guys have a lot of industry interaction with your programs in your class? Do you study?
Yes, I would say yes. We have a lot of industrial interaction, and the study curriculum here is so designed in Chalmers that it bridges the gap between industry and research. So while you're studying, you get to have a lot of guest lectures from people who are working in the industry. Like let's say I'm in biotechnology. So in a lot of my courses, I had guest lectures from doctors who were working in reputed hospitals and companies here in Sweden. So that kind of helps you because when you apply for thesis or when you apply for summer jobs or internships, you can approach these people who would come for guest lectures in your, for your course. So that really helps.
Right, right. So there's a lot of industry interaction. Do you have that in
Exactly.
your?
Actually,
I mean, something being biomedical engineering.
yes. My master thesis is linked with AstraZeneca.
Okay.
I'm doing it in collaboration with AstraZeneca, and I
Right.
get to go there, see their facilities. I use them, so I
Yeah.
build contacts there. And
Right, right. But you guys are actually 1.5 years old already at
Yes.
Chalmers. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to assume that you have that interaction because you're doing your thesis or whatever. But what about you that has just come here in September?
Uh,
Do you have access to
Yeah.
companies?
yeah, because this study period we were taken to Ruach Space, which is like in collaboration with European Space Agency, and they work on space missions. And next study period, we have an industrial visit to Ericsson.
Cool.
So yeah, and even some of the Ruach engineers gave us lectures on antenna design and other stuff.
Right, and you brought up this question about you brought up this point about study period, which is very different from everything else you guys have experienced in the past, right?
Yeah.
How does that work for you?
Yeah.
What is the background that you've had, and what does it look like now?
In India, like let's say we have the semester period. So semester system, we have 2 semesters in a year, and here we have this quarter system. So the best part about a quarter, it's like a semester is basically broken into 2 quarters, and every quarter you study 2 subjects. So the best part is that you can concentrate more on your subject, and you can plan your academics and your life well. I mean, you get time to do other activities, and at the same time you're able to give a lot of I mean, you can study your subjects well. So yeah, I really like this quarter system. It's much better than the semester system. Personally, I feel that.
What about you guys? I mean, anything else you want to add to that?
well, I was coming from a university where the classes run from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day,
Yeah.
with half an hour break in between,
Okay.
which was horrible. But here it's much more, like Mirani just said, it's much more relaxed. But also the classes are more applied.
Mm-hmm.
So although you're giving it not lesser study hours, it's more applied. You get really into the project
Right,
and the
right,
work itself.
right. So the quarter system actually
Yes.
works for you guys, and then you actually have time because your schedules are not 9 to 5 either, are they?
No.
They're not 9 to 5. So your courses might be, you might have a class today from 8 to 10, and next week to Wednesday it's probably from 5 to 6.
Yes.
It could be.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to share my experience. Like last year when I was in my first year of study, I was doing my master's, and at the same time I was a part of a committee under Chalmers called BEST. And now again I'm doing my thesis, and I'm still a part of another committee called RUNG, Chalmers Indian Association. So basically you can manage both. That is the beauty of Chalmers.
Right. Quickly, I would like to ask you about how does how does working for, do you guys work for your professors?
Yeah, in my case, I had a bit of free time last study period, so I just asked one of the professors whether he has some projects or some hobby projects for me, and I got a project, and now I'm working with one of my professors, and he has mentioned that if this project goes on well, I have a chance of extending it as a thesis,
Right.
which is actually like a design of Ericsson.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
But does that mean that it's a part-time job? Does that mean you get paid for it?
No, you don't get paid for it. It's just basically a voluntary job. When you have time, you can just go and do that project. If you don't have time, just mail the professor saying that I'm busy with my assignments or I have my exam.
Exactly.
And even he's too cool.
Yeah, exactly. You say, I can't do this stuff. And then he's
Yeah.
like, okay, I understand. I mean, life is difficult sometimes. But what about you guys? Do you have time to do your part-time jobs? Do you have part-time jobs?
I Okay, I don't really have a part-time job and I've never worked for a professor as such, but I would like to add something here. Like I was interested in this very specific topic for my thesis, and there is this professor under whom I've taken a lot of courses. And this professor was so good that she actually recommended me for a couple of companies, and she gave me a list of 50 companies because I had this very specific choice for thesis. And now that I have a thesis, is basically because of her. So yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's the kind of people that you want to work with. You want to work with people who have heart, who want to work with you, who want to help you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But coming back to this point about the part-time jobs, do you know anybody that has a part-time job? Even Swedish students?
No, actually, I want to like. I have a friend. He is in the materials department.
Yeah.
And he works for a professor.
Yeah.
For one of their projects.
Yeah.
And he gets paid for it.
Okay. But is that
So-
something that's common?
Yes, I would say so. I mean, it depends on the professor you go to. If they have an extra project available, if you have time,
Exactly.
And
So it
yeah.
has to match everything.
everything.
The
has to
professor
match.
should have it, you should have it. Yeah.
I think it depends on the department as well. Because
Yeah.
there are a couple of departments where professor actually take master students for teaching assistant jobs,
Yeah.
which is not really common here in Sweden, but then exceptions are there.
True. As I mean, I would like to step in and kind of clarify that by saying that at exactly this concept of a research assistant or a teacher's assistant, which is an American concept, exists only in America, so to speak, or in other countries. In Sweden, it does not, because the PhD candidates are the ones who are teacher assistants and research assistants. So they are the ones who actually do it. Master students getting into these kinds of roles are rare, and when they happen, they are because those departments or those professors actually are looking for that. So it's not a pattern, it's not a common thing. Now, I also would like to ask about, does any of you actually, do any of you think about starting a company? Have you ever thought of that?
Not really, but yes, Chalmers does support entrepreneurs. We have this question asking that does Chalmers support entrepreneurs? They really do. We have this incubation center here. So if you have a very amazing plan and if you have your professors there, definitely probably you can propose your plan there. But I don't know how exactly it works.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people who actually, who have been helped by this.
Yeah, we've had one of our friends actually had that. The thing is basically that the incubator, the business incubator at Chalmers, if I'm not mistaken, is something that helps you start your own business. But then you have something called there's something called a startup camp. So you go to the startup camp, you basically pitch an idea, and if you win the competition, because the camp is a competition in a way, if you win the competition, then you basically get venture funding. So venture capital is VC funding, you get it. And the moment you get that, then you get on your legs and you start moving. Or then you should have been part of a program kind of like entrepreneurship and business design or management and economics of innovation, where it is kind of part of the program in itself, starting a company, right? So I'd like to actually come back to this part-time job, full-time job, that angle of your lives. You are studying so you can find a full-time job, right? You are studying so that you will be able to find a full-time job at the end of your studies.
Yes.
Do you really have time during your studies to do a part-time job? Do you find that you have the time to do that? If you wanted to, would you be able to do a part-time job?
I think it depends on the student, It's difficult to do a part-time job along with your courses, but then at times it does work. There are a couple of students who do part-time jobs on weekends. They probably work somewhere in restaurants and are able to manage their expense. But then I would say it's better to be, you can't really manage both at the same time. It becomes a lot taxing.
Right. And but does that pay? I mean, does it pay you enough to be able to survive? Like to pay your rent and your food and everything?
No, not really. But then it's like, you get little bit of money. Maybe you can use it for your additional expense, but not to
Right.
pay your housing rent or pay for your food bills.
Right. So you were about to add one thing?
Yeah, one thing, like someone asked, please talk about the exams. That's the best part in Chalmers. There is no failure system. Like in case of India, if you fail in a paper, like
That's it.
yeah, that's it. Your parents will like scream hell out of you, and like here it's like I have friends who are like saying that I didn't understand this concept, so because of this, I'm going to take this exam again. There is no failure concept here. You can just give exams again and again and understand the concept, and that's what the professors want. They don't care about the
Exactly,
marks.
right? Exactly. So it's not about being a 100% or an A grade student. It's about having understood the
Yeah.
concept.
And I like to add something here. The number of attempts you take to clear a paper is not actually mentioned on your degree.
So yeah, you can write an exam 15 times and nobody cares. But what I would actually like to add to what you just said is it's not only a concept of no failure. Like yes, failing an exam might require you to rewrite an exam, but there is even also a concept of this what you talked about that I didn't understand the concept that I want to go from a 4 since our grading system at Chalmers the grading system is 3, 4, and 5. Below 3 you're a failure, right? So 3, 4, and 5. So if you get let's say you're a student that is usually a 5 student and you got a 3 or a 4 and you really want that 5, you can write this exam 15 times if you want to in order to get that 5, right? So you can write it 15 times to understand everything so well that in the next exam you will get a 5. So there is no concept of failure or a concept of you cannot write this exam again or that oh you wrote it 15 times so we're going to put it in your transcript that you wrote 15 times. No, it just says you passed. You know the subject,
Yeah.
right? And that's also I've heard this from other students and you can validate it for me that companies don't really look at your grades. When you apply for your thesis, you're going to be doing it at a company, right?
Yes.
Did they ask you for your transcripts?
I think for thesis, yes, you have to send them your transcripts, but then when you actually go for your interview, it's more, I mean, they test your knowledge and they test how can you actually work, I mean, how are you when it comes to teamwork and how serious you are about your field of study and all those things.
Mm.
So basically, they don't really put much emphasis on your transcripts, but yes, if you want to apply for thesis in a company, good grades, I mean, it's recommended, yeah.
Right, right, of course, right. That's kind of obvious. That's kind of logical. You were about to say something.
Yeah, my experience was kind of the opposite.
Okay.
Really, they did not ask for my transcripts at all.
Okay.
So the biomedical engineering program in Chalmers is more toward electronics and electrical engineering, and can tend go towards biology.
Yeah.
But my biology wasn't that strong. But the company said that they don't care as long as I'm interested and I have a little bit of know-how. They'll train me.
Yeah.
And that's what they did.
Yeah.
So they spent 2 to 3 weeks teaching me everything about cell culturing, about how to behave in a sterile lab and what not to touch and what to touch. And things like that. And now they're fine with it. Now they trust me completely with our results and everything.
That's
So
yeah. You were
they put an effort into it.
right, right.
I'd like to add a point to him. Like the professors want you to follow your passion. They help, like they will take out free time just to teach you what you want, and then so that you can pursue your interest.
Right, and I mean, I would like to. I actually lost my train of thought, unfortunately. Yes, no, about this whole thing that you talked about, being helpful and being open and being, basically fostering your passion and things like that.
Yeah.
Isn't that also applicable to your labs? As in, like, I know for a fact that labs are open to you.
Yes.
Those labs that might be super expensive are still open to you. They're open 24/7 to you.
Yeah.
Is that true? Have you any experience of it?
I work with expensive equipment.
You work with expensive equipment.
Yes, and they leave me alone with it, which I might add is very dangerous.
Right, exactly.
Incidents have happened.
I mean, like, in your case, you might actually have access to the clean room.
Yeah, we have access to the clean room. Yeah, and it's like there are like certain safety precautions which you need to care because clean rooms are like something which is not available in all the universities. So you need to follow the safety instructions, but then they leave you alone in the room and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, and
Just be
just
careful not to break anything.
exactly, just for everybody's knowledge, a clean room is actually something that is part of the nanotechnology realm of studies. It is where you work with atoms and molecules. So basically, you have a lot of actually very expensive equipment like vapor deposition equipment or microscopes or anything else that a plasma machine. So there are lots of these different high-tech, extremely expensive equipment inside a room that is extremely clean. The air is filtered thousands upon thousand times because dust particles are giants when compared to atoms and molecules, which means they can destroy your sample. So the air is so clean that you literally have no dust particles, literally. And people that enter the clean room have to look like those characters from Independence Day, where you've got goggles and full white masks and lab coats. But you're working with those kinds of things, right? So and that's what a clean room is. And usually clean rooms and such kind of labs, such most of the labs that you guys have access to are very expensive, and usually only PhD students have access to those things in other countries. But at Chalmers, it seems like you guys have access to it, and people actually trust you. That was the point that I wanted to bring up. That people trust you with this equipment that they give you, right?
Yeah.
That you're allowed to make mistakes. I'm just gonna unlock my computer. Just a moment, guys. This is to ensure that we are actually still online. Right. And then we've got questions about scholarships. Are you all scholarship holders?
No, I'm not a scholarship holder.
Right. Are you a scholarship holder?
That's because I made a blunder. I did not apply for the scholarship before deadline. So that's my
Actually, even I did the same scenario. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
I
about
have
you?
a special case.
You have a special case.
I don't need
Yes. You don't need scholarships. True. Arsalan also happens to hold a European passport. Therefore, he grew up in Copenhagen, Denmark, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So therefore, you have a special case because European students are exempt from fees. So that answers the question about scholarships. But if
But I would like to add something here. I got this Rotary Scholarship, which we would have seen. I think Abhilash Ram mentioned about it. So yes, I got that scholarship. So you can actually apply for scholarships during the second year of study.
right, exactly, and while these scholarships might not be large or not necessarily substantial, so to speak, they are scholarships you can apply for and will, in some way, enable you or help you reduce your stress. Comments on switching to management or innovation from computer engineering. Chalmers is basically the best for engineering. So what about management? Well, you kind of got that wrong, a little wrong, actually. I would like to take this question because I'm not sure you can actually answer this.
Yeah.
So the incubator at Chalmers is ranked at number 7 in the world. We are actually very well known for our incubator. That basically means that our management / business / innovation capabilities are actually really, really high. So switching from engineering to management, that is a choice that you have to take, right? That is a choice that you will have to make when it comes to if you are a computer science engineer and you want to start working with management. That decision you will have to take, but based on the information that the website can give you, the Chalmers website can give you. There are many things that you can do. For example, you can study the management program, any of the 4 or 5 management programs we've got. We've got international project management. You've got supply chain management, quality and operations management. There are many management programs that we offer, and those are engineering management programs. So as a computer science graduate, you are more or less eligible for them. So you will have to look for them and make an application. And I'm assuming that you have, because you are in this webinar. So there shouldn't be much of an issue. What about management area, teaching or teachers? I'm not sure I understand that question, but I kind of tried to answer your question to as best of my knowledge as possible, right? Moving on, guys. What about your classroom? Like, I want to know. Like, we are Indians and Pakistani sitting here. Yes. What is your classroom like? Is it only Indians and Pakistanis?
No, you have a mix of all the nationalities. You have Swedes, you have European students, you have Indians. I mean, everybody is there. So it's basically a mix of nationalities.
Right, and then that means that your group work is your classroom is going to be extremely multicultural. You're going to have to understand
Yes, so basically, when your professor gives you this project or group work, you have people from other nationalities working with you, and I think that's really amazing because you get to hear their ideas. They can correct you at times if you go wrong, and you can do the same, and you learn a lot.
Yeah. And yeah.
Apart from that, like I've seen in some of the courses, what they do is since some of the courses are more wider, and so there's a lot more people from different disciplines attending those courses. So the professor tries to make a group that involves a different variety of backgrounds. So you've got a multinational group, but then you also have people from different disciplines, and they all be put together to get the work done.
Right. So I mean, so you're telling me that your professors actually actively make groups of students on their own.
Yeah.
That you're not necessarily the ones going to somebody asking, "Do you want to be in my group?"
Yeah. And the groups are made in such a way that like it's not only just Swedes you have in your group. It's like you have Spanish as well as Swede as well as an Indian. It's like if it's a group of three, all the three will be from different international.
Right. Right. Can we take courses not primarily offered in a master's program?
Yes.
Yes, you can do that.
All three courses. Yes.
Because I have done that. I mean, once you take your compulsory courses and once you're done with your compulsory electives, which you can check on your master's, the course page. And if you have credits left, you can take courses from other departments. Like I have taken this communication course, which is about English, writing, and stuff. So yes, you can do that.
Great. What about you guys? Similar experiences?
Yeah.
I mean, you're here only for 4 months now.
Yeah,
Have you already taken a course outside?
Yeah.
Awesome.
My course is basically like purely research oriented, but then I wanted, and since I didn't have any knowledge of management or economics, I actually got a chance to take a course in economics for this study period.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I shifted quite a lot.
Yeah.
Actually, so I went towards tissue engineering,
Okay.
which was more or less a bit of biomedical engineering, but it wasn't offered by my department.
Okay.
After that, I took 2 or 3 more courses, and it was all fine. Like Mrinali just said, you just have to do your mandatory courses. It's
Right.
courses. Then you get to choose whatever you.
Exactly. So how I usually like to explain their answers is by saying that bringing it concise to this point that at Chalmers you're not necessarily only getting a degree, you're building a profile for yourself. You're building a profile towards what you actually want to be after you finish your master's, right? So if you want to be better at communications, you can take a course in communications. If you want to be better at programming, you can pick a course in programming. And if you want to study nanotechnology, you can take a course in nanotechnology. It is possible to do that, as long as you have done what you are expected to do as a student of your program. So there are compulsory courses, there are semi-compulsory courses. You must have done those in order to be able to do anything else as well. Work permits after masters. Again, I don't know whether I should allow you to answer that. I think I will take that. Work opportunities. Let us say this: as a student, you are allowed to work. All right. As a student, there is no restriction on the number of hours you can work. You can work literally 24/7 if you wish, as long as you make your grades, right? Your grades are important. Now, so this is basically to contradict the point that that in the US usually you've got these 20-hour per week limits and things like that. So there is no limit on the number of hours you can work as a student. The work permit is more or less included in your student residence permit. Now, after your studies, you get 6 more months. You are allowed to apply for 6 more months to stay and find a job. If you have not already done that during the 2 years of your studies, that is, right? So you can, after graduation, apply for 6 more months to stay and find a job or start a PhD or start your own company, whatever you want. Next, if you do find a job, your student permit can automatically be changed into a work permit. There is no, you have to go back to your home country to apply and things like that. Nothing of that sort. You can just stay here, make an application to the migration board to change your student permit into a work permit if you find a job. Right? How manageable is the code? How are you guys feeling about the... Actually, it snowed like crazy before yesterday, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, I've been here for 6 years and I have seen this happen maybe 3 times or twice. But you guys have seen it for the first time, that this much snow came, like half a meter. How do you deal with the
I would
cold?
say it's looking very beautiful. It's
Yeah.
looking like a fairy tale land, and if you've seen Chronicles of Narnia, it looks
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, but how do you manage with it? I mean, yes, it looks beautiful, but you can't walk out in t-shirts and shorts, right?
Proper clothing.
Exactly.
Yes.
So yeah, there's nothing like bad weather. There is something called as bad clothing. So if you wear your woolens and everything, I don't think it's a problem. Cold is pretty manageable.
And
Yeah.
fun.
And fun, yeah, exactly. Snow fights and
Snowman.
Snowman.
We
Yeah.
actually made a dark weather.
You go down
We
to
made
the
a snowman.
Wow, that is interesting. So nerds for the win, huh? Okay, awesome. What about you, Aslan? You've already experienced
I know
snow
the
in your life.
cold. Yes, I know
Yeah,
the
you know the cold.
But like Mrinaldi said, you just have to be dressed up for it. You can't just walk around in your t-shirts and your shorts anymore.
No,
Got to
exactly.
dress in layers.
Exactly. And then there is a good reason for you to bring, those things from home. You can get a good jacket from home.
Yeah, I would like to add here it's better to get stuff from home because things here are slightly expensive when you talk about apparels. So you can buy cheap clothes from Christmas market or from second-hand markets, but it's better to have your, woolens and other thermals. I mean, get it from home.
Yeah. I would actually, I understand your point. I would actually recommend people to also think about the fact that maybe things here are built for this place. Oh, we just lost another side. Can you fix that? You can stand on the chair if you want to be able to reach well.
You want me to help you out?
Yeah, we've got a problem with our glue today, very clearly. So again, yes. So I would say that it's possible. I mean, one logical point of view for me is that jackets made here are made for Sweden, so it kind of works out. But I know for a fact that a lot of Indians have brought, like especially the ones that live in North India, like the ones from Calcutta, the ones from Kashmir or Delhi, they brought their own jackets, and it's worked for them.
Yeah.
Right? It worked for you.
It works.
So if you're not from the south of India, like I am, and you do not know what the cold is, and you came here with a Nike jacket which you thought was meant for the winter, you would not survive with that. So unless you're going to do something like that, I would suggest you bring it from India.
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
Because I come from the south. I come from Karachi.
Yeah.
It doesn't get cold too much at all. It's 18 degrees.
Yeah.
So if anybody of you is coming from Karachi, please don't buy a winter jacket there. Please come here and buy one.
Yeah, and boots are also better here in a way. Actually,
Yeah.
shoes are much better here than from India. I mean, the woodlands. You can buy woodlands, but woodlands are good enough to a certain amount of time of the year. Beyond that, you really do need winter boots from Sweden. And you can get like you said in London, you can get those from second-hand stores and things like that.
Regarding
Yeah, Swedish actually. I wanted to ask you. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just about to bring that point up as well. What do you think about the language Swedish? Do you need it in class? Do you need it in your daily life? Do you really need it when you start a job?
You don't need Swedish in your day-to-day life. I mean, your professors, they talk in English. Your classmates, they talk in English. And even the people who are there in the grocery stores, they talk in English. But then, yes, if you know Swedish, that's always better. Because if you go to grocery stores a couple of times, the things you buy, they're all written in Swedish. So that will help you. If you know basic Swedish, you'll be able to get the right thing. You pick up the right thing. And also when you talk about jobs and summer jobs, so maybe yes, then it's better if you know a little bit of Swedish because that helps you to mingle up with your
Yes,
colleagues.
exactly. The social aspect of it is very important, right? Language plays a very big role when it comes to socializing. You can't really make friends without being able to speak the same language, but you can, but it becomes really difficult. Like when you guys
We're
go
not on
on,
the same level.
exactly. I mean, like when you guys go on a coffee break, you speak your own languages, right? You don't really speak English. You might speak a combination of your language in English, but not purely English. It's the same case over here, right? I mean, I understand that, yeah.
Yeah, I would like to add that one of my friends, I have been trying to speak in Swedish to one of my friends, and he was like, okay, in my free time, we can speak together in Swedish. I will teach you Swedish. That's how good the Swedish is.
Awesome. That is good. That is good. But like you guys both all pointed out, I mean, there is no need for Swedish when you go to a store. There might be a need for Swedish when you go to a store just to be able to understand the labels. But otherwise, you don't really need any Swedish at all, right? But then to answer one small part of that question, there was a question about whether credits are transferable if you learn Swedish as a language. The thing is that the course that we offer you is a non-credit course. So you get about 60 credits when you come to Sweden and to Chalmers. You get about 60 hours of Swedish, right? And that is given to you by Chalmers through a private vendor. Now, after that, you will be able to sign up with the government of Sweden, the municipality of Gothenburg, for a Swedish course for a free Swedish course through something called Swedish for Immigrants. This can run for as long as you wish, right? And you can go through the different ranks of Swedish. But you will not get any credits for it, and you cannot use those credits for your master's program. Not happening. So you won't get any credits to start with, and even if you did, you wouldn't be able to transfer it to your master's program. Not as far as I know, right? At least not from SFI or from the course that you will be getting. You were laughing because
Because of the
That's
question.
question, yeah. And I have a very interesting answer. There is like last study period, I had an uncle who was like in his late 40s taking the course. And the first day we were sitting in the class and he entered with a book and we all thought he was a professor, but he actually was a student and we were like, oh wow, that's a 40-year-old man taking lectures.
Yeah, there is this question which says that will it be hard for somebody who's in his early 30s to adjust? So I should say we're not young, it's just that we hide it well. And then there are a lot of people I know, I mean, who are doing the second master's, so definitely they're above 30 and they're doing pretty well.
yeah,
And in Sweden, you don't have an age limit, when it comes to studies. So in your class, there are fair chances you'll find somebody who is in his early 20s and somebody who will be in his late 30s or maybe early 30s.
yeah, and I mean I should say this. Like 6 years ago, when I started doing my masters, I had a guy that was 40 plus in my class. He had moved from Iraq with his wife and 2 children to Sweden to study international project management, and this man was pretty cool in class, man. I mean, if he can deal with it, I think it simply comes down to the way how open-minded you can be, how fresh you can be, how fresh your approach is to your studies. If you're able to perceive your class as being receptive to you, you will be all right. You won't have a problem. I will just unlock my computer. My computer has a habit of locking itself. Um, it's just to ensure that nothing goes wrong. So right, and then we have a question about work pressure. I will start with these guys first because I'd actually start with you first because you have a fresh view of how it was to study in India. So how classes were, how difficult they were, versus how it is to study here.
In India, you just need to open the book a couple of days before and just finish reading it, and you'll still manage to pass. Here, it's better you have a good time management schedule because it helps. You cannot finish the syllabus in like a couple of days. It's always better to start from day one and follow the 40 hours per week schedule which they have mentioned in the course, like including the assignments and subjects, and still you have a very good life because it's like you have plenty of time. I do climbing myself, play football, and I even play Dota. So it's like you have time. It depends on how well you can manage time.
Right, exactly. What about you, experienced guys?
Okay. So I remember my first week in the first course.
Yeah,
I was still in the Pakistani zone,
yeah.
so I was very laid back. I was very lazy, and that did not go well. I remember I stayed here in one of the group rooms
Yeah.
till 12, trying to meet the deadline, which I did meet.
Okay, good for you.
But I learned my lesson there. When they mean 40 hours per week, they mean 40
They
hours
mean
per
40,
week. That includes everything. So if you actually just said, you have to plan it out more well.
Right, right.
You've got to put in input every single day,
Uh-huh.
but you still get time to do other things if
Right.
you do it well. Yeah.
Right, right. Like, do you have anything to add to that?
I had a similar experience like Arslan. So my first study period was not really that good, but then I learned a lesson that you have to plan your studies well. And as I said, I mean, I'm taking my courses and then I'm a part of so many other committees.
Yeah.
I'm a part of Chalmers Indian Association. I was part of something called as BEST. So I think it's pretty manageable.
Right, and that's something that I want to bring up. You know, we are also on the slide for lifestyle. What kind of lives do you guys lead? I mean, you have studies, you have the possibility to go to the gym, to work out, to have fun, to be part of all of these associations and committees, to do so many other things, to even go out and eat once in a while or have fun with your friends. What kind of lifestyle do you guys have?
I mean, I think it's just that you have to plan it well. Like right now, I'll be starting with my thesis, but I know I'll not leave my gym. So let's say I'll go to gym probably on weekends. And then talking about food and all, and that is like the integral part of your lifestyle. You have a lot of stores here which sell you Indian spices and Pakistani spices. So, I mean, food part is completely taken care of.
Yeah. Halal is available. So halal is not a problem at all. Prayers are not an issue.
Not a problem.
The student union building has got a prayer room.
Yeah.
And you've got Friday prayers. So that's not an issue either. And there are enough churches around the city, so that's not an issue. And Hindus can have also there are some places that you can go to pray.
There are temples and
Yeah,
there is a
temples.
gurdwara.
There's a Gurdwara, yeah, exactly. Buddhists have no issues, so that's cool as well. So it's all like the university is kind of really well. It takes care of all of these things.
Yeah.
But one question I want to ask you: how is the because Sweden, if you guys don't know, Sweden is very strongly. Well, not very strongly. Well, there is a very large percentage of Sweden that is atheist or does not believe in God. And how are their reactions to your religious beliefs?
It's actually very interesting.
Yeah.
I have a couple of Swedish friends, and whenever we sit down, sometimes we talk about religion, but
Yeah.
they're always very curious, and
Yeah.
they go towards the philosophical side.
Yeah.
And they respect my opinion, so they
Yeah.
listen to me, and I listen to them, and we're all just sitting around on a coffee table, drinking coffee,
Right.
and just discussing God and things like that, and they're very receptive.
Yeah. So there is no like demeaning you. There's no making you look small or
No.
anything, and there is no negativity about it, right? Everybody is okay. Everybody's cool. You can do what you feel like, and nobody's gonna question you. It's all good, right? There are questions about quiz clubs at Chalmers. Actually, there is no quiz club, but there is something called a pub quiz that happens every Monday at the university's pub, right? So, and the concept of a pub quiz is something that happens throughout the city. Every pub, more or less, in the city hosts a quiz once in a week, where you get to attend the quiz. And if you win, you sometimes get something. You get a bag of chips or a gift card or something like that, right? So that's that. Please give us something about Formula Student Team. Can you guys take that?
Yeah, it basically is like there is like an interview session, there is an examination. Once you pass, you get into the team, and then you'll need to work like after, like, yeah, exactly. It's like I have friends who work from around after the college, that is after 5 till 10, and then come back. But then it gives you 15 more credits, which actually helps you later because it gives you more free time. So actually, there is a balance between that work and life as well, because you get free time in the end.
Right. So, exactly. And this is, but you're talking about people that might be studying other programs.
Yeah, automobile.
Is it also for the automotive engineering students? Right.
But I think
But I mean,
Even
no,
the climate-
people from all over the university can take part in it, because I've known students who study management programs that have taken part. Prashant used to be part of it,
Yes, yeah.
and so on and so forth. So there are students from all over the university, irrespective of program, that can take it. It's a question of how you manage it, because at some it's like you said, you lose something now to gain something later, right? Yeah. Can we switch the slide? There you go. So Swedish culture. But before we get to that, actually, Swedish culture, work-life balance actually builds into Swedish culture. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about Swedish culture and work-life balance.
it's a bit funny. I worked with a group of Swedes on the course there, and just that of course we had predominantly Swedish people.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it just made sense. And it was funny. They start from 9, finish at 5. Before and after that, it's all fun. You don't work after before 9 or after 5.
Yeah, and this applies to even professors, right? You don't find them doing work after 5. Not
And they advise us not to work after
Yeah.
5.
exactly. I mean, the concept of work-life balance, if I may be so presumptuous as to say, it could have been invented in Sweden. If I may be so presumptuous as to say, because these guys really know how to have fun and how to get their work done. They're very good at planning, and they're very good at scheduling things in such a way that things work out, right? So, I mean, like you already mentioned, I mean, the question was actually answered already, that you have your studies, you have your gym, you have the time for hanging out with friends, and you manage to balance all of these things out and yet be successful, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. So, coming back to Swedish culture, how are the Swedes with you guys? Other than being curious about your religion, of course.
They are helpful as well as amazing. Once, like, it was the second day after I landed in Gothenburg, and I wanted to visit a lake, the Telsea Lake, which is nearby. And I actually got lost, and I met this auntie a couple of times in the road, and she was like, the third time she was curious, and she asked herself that, "Are you lost? And should I help you?" And she's like, she took me to that lake from that place.
Wow.
Yeah.
So wow, that is crazy.
Yeah.
That is really good.
Yeah.
So people actually will walk with you, will take you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would like to share an experience. I remember I'd been to a grocery store and I was looking for baking soda and I didn't know what is baking soda called in Swedish. So I asked this lady and she told me and I was not able to find it. And then I was almost at the billing counter and I see a little kid, shouting and coming towards me. And then he's like, "Mom has given it." So that lady must have found the baking soda and she'd actually sent her son to give it to me.
So that is so
how
sweet.
courteous sweet
That is sweet.
So, well, I had a different story.
Okay.
So I traveled to and back from Copenhagen
Yeah.
quite a lot.
Yeah.
And yes, Swedes are predominantly shy. But usually I end up sitting next to a Swede.
Yeah.
And after an hour, half an hour, we just strike up a conversation, just like that. And then you start telling your life story, and they start telling themselves, and 3.5 hours gone like that.
Yeah, that is cool. That is really cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I understand that. I actually know that Swedes are a bit shy, and what they mean by shy is not about being like, "Oh, I won't talk to you," or "I don't want to make eye contact." Yes, maybe a little of that, but more in the sense that it's that thing that we talked about when it came to religion. They won't really step on your toe. They will try not to be controversial. So they will try to kind of ask questions. If they come into a question, it's like, "Mama, okay, I'll take it easy," and things like that. Right? Okay, is there a problem in keeping beards? Man, look at me. Look at me. Obviously not. I walk around with my beard. No problem. And I'm not even Muslim. I'm not even Muslim and I walk around with, I'm not a Sikh either. I walk around with my beard and it's about as long as my neck or even longer.
Actually, I know a few Muslims on campus. Long beards.
Long beards,
Yeah.
wearing the kurtas.
Yes, exactly.
And there's their caps, what is that called? I forgot the name.
I call
Yeah,
it-
the caps and everything. So no problems at all. None whatsoever. What is public transport like? Wait, you have to first juxtapose this to how public transport works in Pakistan and in India.
Well,
You have to compare the two.
Where do I begin?
In
Well, the buses are wild.
Pakistan,
Yes,
right?
they're like wild animals. And I remember, I tell this to my international friends. Like, buses here stop at a bus station. It's more ordered. It's organized. You know the bus or the tram is coming in 2 minutes. But in Pakistan, it's like, oh, you see it coming from far away. You have to, wave it down, run with the bus, match its speed, and then jump. If there is space, or just hang from the door, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But here it's much more organized. You have a more organized traffic system. You have public transport. You know when the tram is going to come. You know when a tram gets cancelled.
Yeah, wow.
Everything is
There's an
organized.
app for it.
Yes,
Right? There's an app that tells you how it works. Transportation is not free for students. Transportation is subsidized for students. Starting 2016, we have a cheaper student ticket for students using public transport. And it's actually useful. I mean, you guys don't all live really near campus, do you? You actually, all of you live at least 15 to 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
Wait,
Except for me.
except for you. Yeah, you and I, we actually live pretty close by. We live 15 minutes walking or 20 minutes walking from the university.
But I still take the tram.
But you still take the tram, right? So it's that convenient. It's that convenient to take the public transport that you would rather take the public transport to the university. And it works really well, except on a day like day before yesterday when it snows half a meter and public transport gets shut down for a few hours because they need to send a snowplow to clear the roads.
Yeah.
Thank you. And
Regarding the hands-on project and the course, as I said, we had a mass rover problem in our field. That's how practical it is.
right. And what about you guys?
I just
Lots of
remember,
lab work.
no, one of my professors, he asked us to write a research grant proposal.
What?
Yeah.
Yes.
You
were there as well?
Yeah, to show engineering.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And I heard he used it.
Oh, you used
He
it.
used it.
Wow, that is good. See, the one thing that I want to highlight using your example right now is that the student voice is really important. That your opinion, your thoughts are not belittled or made fun of. They are actually encouraged and challenged. They are questioned and discussed.
And the professors never say that you're always wrong, like you're wrong. If you say anything like which is wrong, they just say, it might be possible, but there is a better solution. You are like never wrong.
Yeah, so exactly. Nobody ever says that you're wrong,
Yeah.
which can be a bit difficult for people like us who are used to criticism,
Yeah.
because we want to know whether our project was good or bad, but they will tell you it was okay
Yeah.
all the time, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I've got to ask you, since we talked about the international part, and we are on the slide for India versus Pakistan, I'm gonna be no, I'm not gonna.
Maybe afterwards.
Maybe afterwards, right? No, but do you want to say anything, or is the slide? Do you think the slide speaks for itself?
I think it's I mean, I'm surrounded by Indians.
And
I'm
you were
happy.
Did you just say you were surrounded by idiots?
Well, if you heard that.
What are the don'ts in Sweden? Before that, we would like to talk about accommodation for students, when we must apply for one. You will be receiving a link on your email. Now, this process only starts after you got admitted, so it's not something you really need to think about at this point in time. However, what you need to know if you really want an answer to that question is that once you get admitted, Next Stop Chalmers will send you an email. So this is why I keep telling you, keep an eye on your email. Next Stop Chalmers will send you an email which will include information about accommodation. And using this information, you will be able to go and you will be able to make application for an apartment online. So everything is online. You will be able to make an application for an apartment online. In the off chance that you are offered an apartment, automatically you will be contacted by the housing company to say that you got an apartment. Otherwise, you have to go online and apply for one, and then you will get to see. So when you go online, you will be on a profile, on a website. You will make a profile. You will receive a code on your email. You will use the code to make an application for an apartment, and then you will see in your profile whether you got the apartment or not. Okay. And what are the don'ts in Sweden? Well, I guess I'll leave that to you guys. What are the don'ts?
I don't personally feel there's anything like don'ts in Sweden, but yes, you have to be your sensible self. That's all.
I agree with you.
Even like if there is an hierarchical structure, a non-hierarchical structure, you cannot just go to the professor and say, "You're bad. You're boring." It's like it's not good.
Yeah, you have to be
You have to
respectful.
respect.
You have to be respectful and nice, and that's about it. Everything else, anything that is not nice and not respectful, should effectively be a don't, whether that be in Sweden or anywhere else in the world. Simple,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just like you said it very perfectly. Be your sensible self. Simple as that. No stepping on anybody's toes. How often is cricket played in Gothenburg? Well, that's a good question because there's actually clubs in Sweden for cricket. There's a club called Seaside Cricket, which is actually for Gothenburg, and there are teams around this area and even in the Nordics, so to speak. So people actually travel to Denmark sometimes to play cricket matches and things like that. And that's probably the only time when India and Pakistan have an argument. Probably. Yeah, and that's not when our cricket teams go and play. It's when India and Pakistan are playing online, of course, wherever on the international matches, right? So I don't know about how often, but I do know that there is, and there are possibilities to play all many other sports as well. We've got saunas and swimming pools, and Fysiken is a student gym which is very close to Chalmers, and you can play pretty much any sport there, so on and so forth, right? So there you go. Oh, and the last point on that presentation is actually not meant for you. I'm sorry. That was meant for the Indonesian students that I had a webinar for earlier today. So I'm really sorry about that point. But the rest of it makes sense for you, right? That there is a student union and plenty of societies and clubs. Learning itself is a society which is meant not for Indians only. It's actually a society for anybody that's interested in Indian stuff. And that includes everybody else and not just Indians, right? Excellent. Anything else that you would like to add, or are we at the end of our presentation? We are actually at the end of our webinar. About 6 minutes ago, we hit our end of the webinar. So what I would say is this, right? You guys can, I thank you very much for your time here. I will go there, run through my last few slides, and then we can wrap this up. What do you say?
Perfect.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Right. So just to make a wrap of everything, here are the useful links. You've got the Chalmers key dates. You've got the scholarships link. You've got study in Sweden for the SI scholarships questions. You've got the Facebook group Next Stop Chalmers India. And then you've got the Facebook group for Pakistan, Next Stop Chalmers Pakistan. And then you've got the YouTube channel, Next Stop Chalmers on YouTube, where you can actually go and you can find this webinar, which I will upload once I have been able to download and upload it to YouTube. You will be able to see other webinars. So they will all probably follow similar content, but it will be tailored to other countries perhaps, or other webinars or other videos that we've uploaded. And then there is the Rung website, gorung.se. Right? I see a question about motorcycle and bicycle culture. There is a very strong bicycle culture in Sweden, and yes, it's a very strong culture. It's where the roads are built for bikes. More importantly, and yes, so there's a very active bike culture in Sweden. Coming to the next. I thank you, and these are again our contact details. We've got our YouTube channel where you can find all of these guys posting videos, or on our Instagram where you can find them posting pictures. You can go to our YouTube group, sorry, our Facebook group, join the group, and then you will be able to then interact amongst yourselves, ask questions amongst yourselves, and now and then we will step in. And what I mean by we is that me, myself, and from the university, me and my colleagues who work with marketing will step in now and then and answer questions. And our student ambassadors will be available sometimes around in the group, right? Also. So that's me saying thank you. I wish you a nice evening. Have a nice day. Goodbye.